And that's what he was, you know.
Yeah, I don't, unlike he was an interesting character. Unlike other serial killers that you see out there, they eventually will, at least in a roundabout way, talk about some other victims that there were more out there, whether they reveal where they were, who they killed, and help authorities. Many do. And those that don't still kind of give an indication that, yeah, there were more. What Biegenwald didn't care what people thought. He wasn't out for that serial killer fame. Now I don't know. He was very reserved. I don't know if that's part of his antisocial disorder that he had, being very isolated, and that probably contributed to why he never spoke to what he did. And I suspect to those like Fitzgerald and Teresa Smith that he did expose what he has done and what he did, that they didn't live long. And I think that's why Teresa Smith came forward, and I think Daryl Fitzgerald was just a matter of time, if they didn't get caught, that he was going to eventually meet his demise as well. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, if we're going to assume that Biegenwald, did contract killings, then he did two very, very different kind of killings. A contract killing for money that's one thing, but to murder girls, that's another thing. And I think that if you did contract killings for the mob, you certainly wouldn't want them to know you were doing that for sport too, to gratify some wacky desire that you have inside you. I don't think they would be okay with that, because then you're putting yourself in a position to get caught, and if you get caught doing that stuff, you may give up what you're doing for them. But he didn't give up what he was doing for them, and I think he was true to whoever else he was doing these killings for, in that sense. But he was just, he was a bad guy. He liked that kind of stuff. I mean, I remember Teresa Smith telling us before we raided the house that there was a big snake in the basement, and that he had cut a hole in his apartment floor so that he could go back and forth between Darren Fitzgerald's home without going into the hallway, or without being seen at the outside door of Fitzgerald's apartment. And I thought, that's the wackiest thing I've ever heard. A big giant snake that they were going to milk the venom from, and then paint on to the transmitting portion of a public telephone in the Seaview Square Mall, and sit in the mall and watch when this venom brushed against somebody's lips. Because, the lips and the mouth area, they absorb medicine and, infection better than any other part of the body. And that they were gonna make sport of people, perhaps dying right in front of them while they sat in the mall. I had never heard of things like that. And it was very, very difficult for me to accept right away that, there were people like that. I had seen plenty of people that killed, the typical murderer is pretty easy to catch, because most murderers commit murder because of drugs, money, sex, or a derivative of those three things. And it's pretty easy to put 1, 2, and 3 together. But an apparently motiveless murder, or a murder with a motive that is just very, very difficult to understand, like these things, is very, very hard to get your arms around. So when Teresa Smith told us that they had, Biegenwald had crafted a .22 caliber weapon that fit inside of a butane cigarette lighter, to me, that was ridiculous. And, a secret compartment in Darren Fitzgerald's home was hard to believe. And who in their right mind would cut a hole in the floor of an apartment they were renting and put a staircase down into the basement with a big snake? But it was all true. It was all true,
Yeah.
including the secret room filled with guns. It was something, brother.
Yeah, I can imagine. And that really kind of strikes to the fact that, or the inclination that there's more, because his thrill killings were very, methodical. They were, it was the same type of look, young woman, dark hair, dark eyes, alone, walking. And most serial killers will have that method of operation, and that MO, as you had indicated, that will lead us to kind of pinpoint who did it or who not, who did it or who didn't do it. With these, what your raid produced in terms of that they were extracting the venom from a poisonous snake for mass killings at a mall. The Handbook of Anarchy, I believe it was called, the construction of explosive devices, 22 caliber cigarette lighter converted into a 22 caliber gun. That worked, that was functional, and accidentally went off the night of the raid. That surely indicates, someone with intentions for mass murder.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with you. I don't think that he ever committed the thing that ties all the murders that he did in was there. I don't think there was ever a disorganized moment where he just did something that was out of control and then had to cover it up. Like, a guy kills his girlfriend or shoots somebody during a bank robbery. I mean, that's not him. He intended every one of these things, but for different reasons. Some were for self-gratification, others were for money. But some were, the ones of the girls were opportunistic. He was a predator there. He was a stalker, a predator. The other ones were, he was contracting, he was earning a living. It's a very strange thing. And on the side of him being a predator, these guys that do this, in my opinion, it's almost, there's a tension that builds up, and then there's a release, which is the killing. And then a period of time passes and the tension builds up again, and there's a release by the killing. And I think that's what the girls that we have found represented. The other killings are different. They're for money, or in the case of the New Jersey State Police informant, and maybe a couple of others for self-preservation. So he was a very, very complicated guy. He was very, very smart. And I remember when he was arrested, I arrested him with two other guys at his house. We took him back to Asbury Park Police Headquarters, and we took him into the ID room, searched him for weapons, and had him take his boots off and put him in a jail cell. I had to go back to the jail cell to bring him out to interview him, to fill out the information for the arrest memo, the name, address, date of birth, social security number, all that kind of stuff. And when I went to get him from the jail cell, he didn't give me any problem. We went into the interview room, and I had the arrest memo in front of me, and I asked him his name, and he said to me, "Give me my fucking boots." And I said, "Well, you can't have your boots because you've been arrested, and you're not going to have your boots in the jail cell." And it's all, he just looked at me and he said, "I'm telling you now to give me my fucking boots." And during this back and forth with him, his eyes shot. I carried I believe it was a Chiefs special, a 5-shot 38 Chiefs special as a detective. And I saw him, it was just a glance of an instant. He glanced at at the gun. And I stood up, opened the door of the interview room, unloaded the gun, gave it to a friend of mine. I sat back down, and he wasn't at all pleased with that. I'm absolutely certain that if I hadn't done that, there would have been some trouble in that room. And he continued to give me my fucking boots. And I just, that was certainly no time to see who was the manlier man. And if I had to give him his boots to get his attention and to get this stuff done, that's what I was going to do. And I stood up and opened the door again, and I said, "Listen, bring this guy his boots." And they brought him his boots. He put them on. We got the arrest memo done. Walked him back with another detective to the ID bureau. Took off his boots and put him back in the jail cell. But he was looking for something. He was looking for. He was working himself up with this "give me my boots" thing. He was kind of energizing himself to attack me and get that gun. That's what he was doing.